All right, hey everybody, Tommy Dimstill with Dimstill Debate, once again back with Seth Powell. Seth, right before the break we were talking about, of course, AFP and the gas tax and the ethics reform bill.
No. There's no ethics reform in this. This is where they get you, right? So,
okay. All right.
Same thing with the gas tax.
Straight.
So, same thing with the, the gas tax hike. They're claiming a third of out-of-staters are paying for our gas tax. Completely made up.
Right.
Completely made up. But they put something out there so it sticks and people start referring to that like it's fact. Mm-hmm. Same thing with this ethics reform bill. There is nothing in this bill that reforms the way that the Ethics Commission down in South Carolina can hold people accountable for being legislator lobbyists, which is the main problem. The reason we want ethics reform, real ethics reform, is we want income disclosure from the legislature so that we know they're not on the payroll for organizations that are making money off their policy decisions in Columbia, right?
Right.
Very basic. That's what we want in ethics reform. Well, what has happened is that the legislature, and people across the state want ethics reform that works like that. We want ethics reform for the legislators because they're the ones that are acting unethical. The legislature has now co-opted this demand for a real ethics reform and put the name of ethics on a bill that does nothing to actually solve the problem I just described.
Might as well be the don't kick puppies bill.
Yeah, exactly. Throw a name on there, you know what I'm saying, and hope it sticks. And so we want ethics, so they gave us a bill with ethics at the top of the page, but no ethics reform in the bill. And instead, what's actually in the bill is they go in, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, people, but when it comes to election finance and election campaign laws, there are certain different classifications of activities you can do depending on what your IRS designation is, right? So there's something called issue advocacy or express advocacy, and there's something called campaigning. So when you actually mention someone's name and try to say, hey, go out here and vote for this guy.
Right.
So right now, if you are to be a group that wants to go out and say, hey, vote for Lee Bright, or vote for that, and you're not a super PAC, then you have to disclose donors. But if you only go do issue advocacy, if you only talk about issues, like a lot of the Tea Parties do,
right?
Like AFP does, like Campaign for Liberty, SC Policy Council, people like this. If you just talk about issues, right now you don't have to disclose your donors. So it allows people to pool resources together, to have the First Amendment rights of free speech, to talk about issues that are affecting them in their neighborhood without being politically liable for people won't have backlash against them, like you saw with Proposition 8 out in California. Yep. So out there you had a guy who, I think was the owner of Mozilla Firefox or something. He signed or had given money to a group that was fighting against legalizing gay marriage in California.
Right.
Well, when gay activists figured this out, they basically isolated him and targeted him until he had to resign his job. Right? So basically did a economic boycott based on his political givings. To us, to be intimidated for your political leanings and to be ousted from your job is not only wrong, but it's un-American.
Oh, yeah.
We want to protect that from happening to people. So when you donate to America's prosperity, unless you want to make it public, it is a private matter. Between two private people, you give money to us, and we're going to spend it how you'd like us to spend it. Well, obviously that gives citizens power because it's one person with just your money. It's hard to go out here and really make a difference, right? I mean, and you've seen this in your life. I remember back when I was with the Taxpayer Association, just to go out and print 80 flyers to mail or lip drop in neighborhoods like $50 from FedEx. You know what I'm saying? Even if you have a good deal, there's only so many of those you can do with only one person's resources. When you pull it together, then you can really start to make a difference. Well, of course, legislators don't like this because when citizens make a difference, they drive the debate. And you get stuff like no gas tax hike, right? Yeah. So what they determined to do is go in and redefine what constitutes electioneering in the South Carolina Penal Code and include issue advocacy so that any kind of information or communications you have going out within 30 days of a primary or I believe 60 days of a general election, you have to disclose your donors. Yeah. Basically, it's a way to silence citizens groups leading up to elections.
That leads to a lot less money for groups that are trying to do the right thing because they're, oh man, I've got a business, I don't think I can give you guys good luck though, and they close the door.
Well, not only that, it's one of those things where, okay, if you are, let's use the Greenville Tea Party for example, or the Aiken Tea Party, I'm more familiar with them. They've got like a budget, they have annual dues, they have probably a budget, or the Republican Women's Clubs, they have a budget somewhere in like $1,800 to $2,500 range a year.
Yeah.
Right? If they have to start disclosing their donors and doing the paperwork for them, and it's very onerous, they start to look in the mirror and say, is this really worth doing? We could just come and not have any money, just meet for lunch. You know what I'm saying? Everybody pay for lunch and meet and talk, but not actually be an organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them would do that. Basically, what it would do is it would rob the citizens of the ability to actually have financial pooling and be able to actually influence what's going on in government.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they want. So that, and our fear is just that a lot of people would just fold up shop and say it's not worth the hassle to deal with the IRS and everything in order to comply with these laws.
And we know that would happen because you look at the Tea Party and how they were targeted,
Yes.
by the IRS. There was a lot of Tea
Yes.
Party places, groups that did not get going just because it was such, it was such a frustrating experience.
Yeah, especially,
it wasn't worth it for
our
them.
friend Diane Belson down in Lawrence.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically targeted, and ask her. I mean, we probably should have her on sometime. Ask her about the paperwork it goes into dealing with the IRS. I mean, it is insane. And so basically, they want to use that as a way to intimidate citizens from getting involved. And they're using the guise of ethics in order to do it. Mm-hmm. So only in South Carolina could this happen, right? You have the people of South Carolina demanding that the legislators give us ethics reform for them, right? To reform the way they have ethical behavior.
Right.
And then they co-opt it in order to silence the people that are demanding ethics.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, how Machiavellian is this?
Backwards.
But unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and there's 2 bills down in Columbia that have already been voted on. One in the House, or one's been voted on the House, and one's sitting on the Senate. Been voted that do just these things. Mm-hmm. So as I alluded to before the break, as soon as this gas tax fight's over, we're getting into this incumbency protection issue because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's not about ethics anymore. It's about them protecting themselves from the backlash from voters and trying to rob us of our First Amendment rights. So as soon as the gas tax hike is done, we're going to get right into this incumbency protection issue. We're going to go hard. And like I said, we are literally sticking up for our First Amendment rights. And to be quite frank, this has been tried in other states and it is in the court system. It is most likely illegal what they're going to try to do. But if they pass it, it buys them time.
Yeah, and then you got to start that whole fight in the court.
Exactly. You think IRS is onerous? Try going through the circuit court and the Court of Appeals and eventually the Supreme Court, which is where it's heading out west. But we literally are fighting for our First Amendment rights. When people talk about political intimidation, when they talk about going down that slippery slope to fascism and socialism, this is what we're talking about.
This isn't a national issue. This is at our doorstep.
Yes.
This is at our state legislation.
Yes.
So it's not even so much of who gets in the presidency, come in November. This is what are we going to do right now.
Yeah, I think that is maybe an incorrect mental model that I know I had for a long time, is that we feel like the problems are so far away in D.C.
They're right here.
The problems are 60 miles down the road in Columbia. I mean, literally, we have guys that we go to church with, that we see each other in the grocery store, that we pass on, on Woodruff Road, that are down there scheming to take away our First Amendment rights and our ability to organize as citizens. It's a very serious issue, and we're going to take it very seriously and go full throttle. And so I say, now's the time to get involved. Come in here, help us finish out this gas tax issue, get a win, and then
just take that momentum.
Let's take that momentum and go full force with you on our team. And let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, guys. Well, remember, if you want to sign up, we're going to put a little link down in the description how you can get involved with Seth and I. And guys, it's like I said, very important. This only gets done because people volunteer, because people care about what's going on in their communities and do something about it. But Seth, great to have you on.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.